And now, your hosts, Sean Hastings, an independent filmmaker and screenwriter extraordinaire, Jonathan Solzbar, a writer, graphic designer, and voice actor. Together, these fine fellows form Cinema Filibuster.
And welcome to Cinema Filibuster. I am Jonathan Solzbach.
And I am Sean Hastings.
Welcome, Sean Hastings.
Welcome, John Solzbach, to the hobbit hole that is my room that we are recording this in. So we are sitting in filth now, ladies and gentlemen, because I am a poor housekeeper.
And I'm sitting on Sean's bed.
That's the crackling and squishy noise you hear.
And on today's
podcast,
we are here to talk about Mad Max Fury Road.
A franchise that is near and dear to my heart, because when I was a kid, the Road Warrior terrified me of nuclear war to the point I became obsessed with it, and that is why I have a disproportionately large knowledge of thermonuclear weapons and their effects.
Well, this is a follow-up, as our last podcast was, to our 2015 movie forecast.
Yes.
You surmised that this film would be a 4 out of 5 stars.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, I cannot give it a 4-star after I've seen it.
I don't know if I gave it a rating or not. I think I kind of agreed with you that it was probably going to be a 4.
Yeah, because I thought this is going to be real good. I mean, because George Miller, great director. I've loved his stuff in the past. I had a feeling I was going to call it a 3 because, you know, it's a world that I'm familiar with, and it reminds me, it's not enough like the world I remember for me to like it, and it'll only be good enough for me to like it as an individual movie. Sorry, like it as an individual movie, and I was only going to give it 3 stars. Sadly, I cannot give it 3 stars either.
Well, I don't know that I can give it 4 myself, but before we dish out the numerical value... I don't know why I'm talking like
we're keeping. It's because ladies and gentlemen, we've just had a rather large meal at an aforementioned restaurant that is not a sponsor of our show, so we can't tell you where. But we're both quite full and a little giddy.
A lot of hamburgers and French fries.
Yes.
Before we reveal the rating,
these people are on pins and needles now, man.
I know,
we gotta hurry up. They're dying.
They're just gonna scrub right beyond this and get to the good stuff. Anyway, expectations. You thought it was gonna be okay, but...
I thought it was gonna be okay. I thought I was gonna like it for what it was, but it wasn't gonna be Mad Max to me because of my history of Mad Max and the Road Warrior.
From the trailer, all I could think of, it's so orange.
It is orange. Boy, that movie's orange.
And I heard a lot of good things about it, and I tried to stay away from spoilers.
Me too.
I went into it fairly oblivious to what it was really about. And I walked out feeling like, wow, that was amazing.
Well, to keep everybody out of suspense, I cannot give it 4 or 3 stars because, ladies and gentlemen, it gets 5.
This is the first 5-star of this podcast.
I was absolutely astonished.
Cinema Filibuster's first 5-star award.
First 5-star award. I'm telling you what, George Miller has always been one of my favorite directors just because of Mad Max, and even, I know I'm going to get a bit of a hiss, Thunderdome had its moments. It had its moments. And again, I recommend this movie, Razorback. Weird premise, great movie because the man flat knows his stuff. And this has topped everything he's ever done.
You think this Mad Max is the best piece?
It's the best movie that George Miller has ever done, and it is quite possibly one of the best action movies that has ever been made.
You hear that, Mr. Miller?
Yeah, and it's like I told John when we walked out of the theater, that's how we did it in the 80s, boys and girls.
Well, I was made in the 80s.
Exactly. Michael Bay needs to go to George Miller, sit down at his knees, and go, please, Guru, please tell me how do I make a good action movie. The man is, George Miller is absolutely on his game. It had everything that The Road Warrior did, everything that Mad Max did, with a spectacle like I have never seen before. And I mean, the action wasn't as big as, again, a Michael Bay movie, but it was beautiful. This film was beautiful.
There was weight behind each explosion. It wasn't just like, oh, look at the colors, like,
no, somebody happened. If something blew up, somebody you cared about just died. Yeah. In just about every instance. It was, oh my gosh, I was exhausted when I came out of that movie. In fact, I'm going to go as far as to say that was the best movie of the year.
Whoa.
Because episode 7 is going to have to... It's going to have to be something really great to beat that.
I'm daring to be optimistic now that something like Well, something titled Mad Max Fury Road, no pun intended, blew me away.
It did.
That's what my brother and I used to say when it blew me away.
Blew me away. Well, it's an you know, you and your brother were correct. It is an
Where
app.
does this film fit into that mythos? You spoke briefly to it feeling different, but like it belongs.
In the first movie, there was a scene where one of the main bad guys drives face first into a rig, into a truck, and they built a prosthetic face that they could make the eyes bug out of just before he died. And they used that cut. They used that little bit of footage of the eyes going vroom in one of Max's flashbacks. So that lends credence to the fact that this is the same Max Rokitansky from the first movie. And it's the thing is, it's ambiguous still. I don't know, because he lost his interceptor in he lost the interceptor in the Road Warrior near the end. So the interceptor was gone through the third movie. So the fact that he has it again leads me to believe, and this is of course, a fanboy looking at every little minuscule bit of continuity. I think it's a different Max, a different world. Just because he had the interceptor. Of course, he could have found another one. I mean, So I guess you could argue it either way, and that's what I like about it. It's deliberately ambiguous, but it's so ambiguous you don't care. It helps you, in a sense. The ambiguity helps you understand that this isn't Mel Gibson anymore. Mel Gibson, to me, is Max Rokitansky, and
Tom Hardy.
Tom Hardy, thank you. Tom Hardy did a good job, but this is not the same Max Rokitansky. He's a good one, though, and I like his character. I like the way it all went through, and I think the ambiguity helps you bridge the two. It doesn't matter if they're connected or if they're not connected. The blurry continuity between the first three films and this one lets you take it however you want. So it's really left up to you. Is this the same Max or is this not the same Max? Performances, all I have to say about the performances in this movie is that every single one of them was spot on. There was no laggers in the bunch. There was nobody who, that was sort of believable. These were all, but even ancillary characters like, guitar player Goofus had a character. He had when you wanted to see him get knocked off that deal.
To this, so the bad guys have this whole armada, basically. That's probably the wrong terminology for a ground-based thing, but they had this whole fleet, which is also a bad terminology.
We get it. We understand.
They had an army.
And
similar to a drum player in
they had drum players.
War, they had a guy playing drums and
Yeah.
a huge guitar would shoot fire out the side, and basically it was their marching band.
The terminology would be a standard bearer. He's the guy that holds up the ribbon that says this is, in like old England, the standard bearer held up the crest of the family that he represents. So he was basically kind of the standard bearer /
He brought the movie soundtrack.
He really did. The soundtrack, which was also mighty, let me tell you what, that soundtrack did so much to help that movie.
But I think that you're speaking to the performances and how they all fit together, and I think that has something to do with the way that the world is sewn together. I never felt like any particular actor or actress was, hey, I'm an actor, I'm playing this role.
Right.
This is the world that we live in. Mm-hmm. This is how things work. You're along for the ride.
Nobody was acting, everybody was being, in a sense.
And a lot of the way that the movie told its story, how it came, I'm running out of words here, but the way that the story unfolded was, I likened this to Star Wars A New Hope. Things just happen.
Right.
They happen in such a way that you can conclude, oh, this is the way that works, this is the way that works. Nobody's expressly sitting down telling you, this is the world that we live in. This is what we do to survive. Like, you see it.
The movie expects you to understand what's going on in this world the way you understand things going on in your own world.
Charlize Theron's character, even before she had a line of dialogue, you got a sense of what she was doing. Mm-hmm. By the way, you were looking around, your gears are turning, and like, what's she going to do? Nicholas
Meyer put it very succinctly. The best actors are the ones who you can see, as you very aptly put, gears turning behind their eye. His example was in The Day the Earth Stood Still. Michael Rennie, who played the alien, Klaatu, you could see, even when he was looking at you in bed, he's acting right in front of you.
Looking at me in bed?
There is a well, he was in a hospital bed. Okay. He was in a hospital bed, and it was thinking. But the other male lead was just kind of blank, po-faced, and he did an adequate performance, but it wasn't brilliant. And that's the difference between an okay actor and a great actor, is seeing the wheels turn. And you're right, Charlize, who is, let's face it, she's a brilliant actress. She's really good at her job.
The lead character in that film.
Really? She really was.
From a catalyst standpoint? She made things happen. And
She did.
kept things going. Max was kind of...
That's the same.
But
that's the same way it was in Road Warrior too. Road Warrior, he was
we agreed over lunch that you take Max out of that story and it doesn't work.
That's true.
Max
Everything
is an integral part of that machinery.
He absolutely is. But he was that way in Road Warrior. He was just the heroes were inside the little village with the pump station. Max is a burnout. After his wife and child were killed in the first movie, he's just nothing. There is nothing in him anymore. Which is why he's mad, I suppose.
Crazy.
Great. Mad Max always mad because he was pissed off Max, but.
I think in this movie we're supposed to think that he's a little loopy.
He's gone around the corner. He really has.
What did you think of Tom Hardy reprising the Mel Gibson role, or starting it fresh, depending on?
Well, I liked Mel Gibson's portrayal better. I like the Mel Gibson's Max Rockatansky.
Mel Gibson has crazy eyes.
He does. Mel Gibson is one of the most, and I understand the power of the statement. Mel Gibson's one of the most brilliant actors alive today. He is up, when you think of the John Gielguds and the Laurence Oliviers, the greats, Mel Gibson is there. No matter what you think of his personal politics, no matter what you think of him as a person, which honestly I think people dog on him too much. He said something stupid while he was drunk. I can name a million other people who haven't gotten this level of career-destroying crap, and it makes me mad because I hope I haven't seen my last Mel Gibson movie, because he is truly brilliant. Everything he touches is gold. Every character he creates is amazing.
From the Expendables 3, which was nobody expected it to be a great movie, but there he was in the midst of it. Have you seen it?
No, I've not seen the third one.
There he was in the midst of it. I'm like, I want to know more about this guy.
I mean, we're talking about a man who did one of the most superlative versions of Hamlet of all time. His Hamlet, it's Franco Zeffirelli, of course, who is, known for doing Romeo and Juliet and the like, but dude, his Hamlet was powerful. Even though I like Kenneth Branagh's movie better, no offense, Kenneth, I like Mel's Hamlet.
Kenneth might be listening.
He might. No, Kenneth Branagh, brilliant man. He epitomizes Shakespeare, but Mel did a better job of the character than he did. But he, and Mel's a director. This is not a Mel Gibson love fest. So anyway.
Good grief, Sean. Why don't you go marry him?
I would. We would never have sex, but I would marry the man. No, but he
too much information, folks.
TMI. But anyway, no, I wouldn't marry him. But his Max is a brilliant character portrayal. This one is an excellent character portrayal. Betrayal. So anyway, that's kind of where I'm looking. I thought Tom Hardy did great. I loved his
every punch that he threw, although he didn't throw a lot of punches, but every punch he threw landed.
It did.
And you felt like he could take care of himself and other people.
Absolutely. He plays a good burnout guy, and his performance was just really, really fantastic.
Did his voice seem to change to you depending on different takes?
Right. Well, because he was, he's gross. But then he got water, because he was dry at the beginning there. But then as they went through, he.
Well, I couldn't tell what kind of accent he had. I'm like, this sounds a little bit like Bane. Is he Australian? Is he American? Is he European? I couldn't tell.
No, because he had 8 lines of dialogue, which to be able to create a character like that with 8 lines of dialogue.
Well, he did.
The only person who's ever done that is Schwarzenegger, and he was creating a Terminator. So
he did a great job with the physicality. We both remarked that his face didn't read a lot of emotions, but the rest of him moved, and body carriage, all that stuff was convincing.
And it was well done, just very well done. I mean, like I say, everybody in that movie did their job as far as the acting goes, just superbly. It was sublime.
I think you could very easily grasp at the core of this Mad Max, what the story is about. It's life is precious, and so are resources.
Both should be guarded and looked at with awe and respect in a world that doesn't look at them with awe and respect.
I found myself doing a lot of thinking about this world that the characters were inhabiting and wanting to know more.
Absolutely. I want to know, especially when they're leaning back and you can still see satellites circling. So there are still remnants of the world that was still up there. So I'm wondering, could there be a small, what about islands in the South Pacific that weren't hit by nuclear fallout?
The world is like this?
South America could still be, these people could be a boat ride away away from civilization and not
Beyond
know
the
it.
Salt flats. that
I
they talked
know
about.
the salt flats. I know I know what's beyond the salt flats. It's Aqaba, because all the guns face the sea, and that's for all you Lawrence of Arabia fans. There's a scene in Lawrence of Arabia where they have to cross what's called the Sun's Anvil because they're going to invade Aqaba by land. And that's what I first thought. I'm immediately comparing this film to Lawrence of Arabia, thinking it's just like the Sun's Anvil. It's like the Nauvoo Desert. Do it! But then they turned around and thought,
What would you say
cool.
to somebody that says Mad Max is a silly action movie with cars and violence? What would you say to that? Is that true?
No, I would say you didn't see the same movie I did, sir, or ma'am. You missed. I am now moving my hand above my head, ladies and gentlemen, and it's just so you can say I would do this and look at him and go, you've missed the point on that film, sir.
I think it would be very easy for people to look at the trailers and see action and spectacle and violence and without having seen the movie, not realizing there's a story here. And it interested me. It's a
very good story. It's a good story, well told. It's the same.
Very soft moments in this.
Stuff unexpected,
rough world. And so when you see these precious little moments, it's like a little green sprout in a
coming
cracked
out
wasteland. It's like you want to protect it.
You do. When the redhead and baldy boy end up,
Nicholas Holt,
and
the character Nux.
When Nux and the girl, and again, this is spoilers, folks. When Nux and one of the brides kind of have that little moment in the turret where he, is having his crisis of purpose. It's like, I hated this guy at the beginning. He's, spray painting his teeth. I'm going, just eat a bullet and make me happy. But man, by the end of it, which I won't be that much of a spoiler.
There is a character arc.
There's a huge character arc, and a believable one, and a real one. And see, that's the thing about George Miller. And again, back to my Michael Bay shot. It's all about the story that is in the action.
I don't know that there are any characters in Michael Bay movies. There are caricatures, certainly, and stereotypes.
Yeah. Well, it's like I will always maintain, George Romero made the greatest zombie movies of all time. I'm sure I'm getting a lot of, no way, man. George Romero's zombie movies were good because the people in them were real, the characters were real, and it was zombies surrounded by people, or no, it was people surrounded by zombies, and it was the people were the story, and they're what mattered. That doesn't happen in zombie movies a lot anymore. Maybe Walking Dead a little bit, but that's why because I like his characters. They're real people. They're not super real people like a lot of them tend to be. But the same thing with this. These are real characters. You believe in these characters. You love these characters, and you're interested in what they're doing, and you want to see them succeed. All the action, explosion, and stuff happening around them is just the blue cheese on the steak, as I have said before. And that's,
I think the special effects in this movie, relating back to poor Mr. Bay,
Mr. Bay, poor
Mr.
Michael Bay. We're just
his effects aren't rooted in anything, and one of the things I kept hearing is there's so many practical special effects in this movie,
and you can tell,
and it feels real.
Yeah,
that's the thing. At several points in the movie, I forgot that I was watching a movie. I was like, I don't know how they managed to film this, but these guys are going to get killed.
These guys are going to get,
or impaled, or run over.
Well, that was, in The Road Warrior, that was one of the things. These stuntmen, these Australian stuntmen are nuts, man. They will do, sure, whatever. Let's just blow it up. I'll be in it, no problem. Fire retardant suit. They don't care. They're out for making the cool, and they try to outdo each other to who can do the most insane looking thing. The computer-generated stuff is so fantastic, even if you make it look as photorealistic as possible, your brain knows that that's not possible. Mm-hmm. Whereas when a real person's doing it, your brain can see that it is possible.
I'm thinking, I hope he had something soft to land on that they didn't,
And another thing to add that adds to that is George Miller is one of the coolest people in the world to work for. He is an absolute just gentleman. He's and he loves his actors and his stuntmen. Every time a stunt is done, when they call cut and it's great, he is the first person over to that stuntman going, "Are you okay?" He's also a medical doctor too, so he could, if he's not okay, he can actually do something. But he goes over, "Are you okay?" And then when he says yes, he puts out his hand, shakes his hand, said, "That was bloody brilliant." Shakes his hand, and everybody loves him because he's that. On a set, cultivates a sense of you're gonna let him set you on fire and drop you off a building into a pit of acid. Why? Because he asked me to. It's George. I'll do anything for that guy, and that's really it. I mean, that's these people will do anything for him because he is just that kind of a cool guy.
As we've been talking,
Michael Bay isn't. Sorry.
As we were talking, I just been thinking about the importance of fluids in this movie.
Fluids, yeah.
Water.
Your precious bodily fluids. As
Fluoride.
they're putting fluoride in the water, Mandrake.
No, the thing about it.
Yeah.
Water is controlled by the villain in the film.
Yeah.
Fuel is as
Immortus
precious
Joe.
as water because
True.
it's how they transport themselves.
It is.
And then Max's own blood, without getting too spoilery, is very important, even at the outset of the
Because he's
movie.
O positive. He's a universal donor.
There's a lot to be said about the fluids as life, the life that is being carried inside not one but two of the bad guys' brides,
Yeah,
who are
his-
brides against their will.
Yeah, brides against humanity.
And the preciousness of even organic life like trees and seeds. There is an older lady that has some seeds
Yeah, and
in
that's-
a bag, and she protects those. They're valuable.
Well, there was even one line that I thought was so funny. They're needing to winch the truck out, and the guy, what's his name, Nux?
Yeah.
Looks and he says, "We can tie the winch around that thing. It's a tree. It's an old dead tree, and nobody knows what a tree is, and around that thing." So it's like, wow, these people don't know what a tree looks like.
And you kind of get the hint that Nux is going to be crestfallen at some point
Yeah.
because of how much he idolizes the villain. But I didn't feel like the movie slowed down to make you feel sympathetic. It was just sad to watch. And it happened naturally. I didn't feel manipulated. And I actually felt sorry for him.
I know, it was very organic.
I was very glad to see him have the arc that he did.
Because, at the very beginning, he is, Max's complete antagonist.
I just wanted, like you said, put a bullet in the guy.
Bullet in the guy's head. And the spray painting their mouth, that just, oh.
And Sean turned to me, he's like,
Because it's terrible. I mean, I have accidentally tasted spray paint on a couple of occasions because my dad was a house painter. Oh, and the other part, I had to grab John's arm because there was a part in this movie
we need
that
to have a seat between us in the future.
physically, there was a part in this film that caused me physical pain. Anyone out there who knows me knows I'm a gearhead. I love cars. I love planes, trains. Well, Mad Max's Interceptor, from the first movie, through the second movie, is my favorite car of all time. Whenever I become a bazillionaire, there's companies that will build you a replica of that car, and I want one. And again, to spoiler alert, it gets stolen by one of the bad guys, and I'm spending this entire movie going, when's he going to get his car back? When's he going to get his car back? Get back the Interceptor.
See,
Back the Interceptor.
I knew you were thinking about that.
Get back the Interceptor. Jump over the thing. And they're attacked by it at the end. Jump over the deal, kick the guy out, and take back the Interceptor. Well, the Interceptor gets crushed between a couple of trucks. And it hurt. I mean, watching that car get wasted, because they built it up in the first two movies. It's the last V8. It is the last of the V8 Interceptors. That's history. And apart from the fact that my just emotional attachment to this vehicle, watching it die, even if it wasn't even if this isn't the same Max or whatever, I'm telling you, that hurt. That's just me. I have a disproportionate love of that vehicle.
Well, the violence, not necessarily the car violence, but just the violence in general is something that I was curious about because I hadn't seen any Mad Max, and I knew that they were famous for their violence or for their no-holds-barred approach.
Sure.
And I think I even asked you, do you think that my gentle composure will be able to handle the violence? And after seeing the movie, I compare it to the final Lord of the Rings film, which...
Yeah, that's a good point.
In my opinion, there was so much battling happening in the final Lord of the Rings film that, like, this movie is intense. It should be rated R just for intensity.
Yeah, it's epic. It's very,
and
very
Fury
epic.
Road, in my opinion, is R-rated for just the non-stop adrenaline and explosions. And there's some quick moments of violence, but there's nothing. I only heard one F-bomb in the entire film.
Right.
And it was really hard to tell.
Yeah, it was hard, yeah.
I was surprised by how... Okay, so I wouldn't say bring your kids to see this movie, but I'd say bring your teenagers to see this movie. It's
an early teen could probably, depending, you choose. You decide whether your child can handle it, but
right.
Yeah, chances are.
But I was pleasantly surprised by the... I don't know if tasteful is the right word, but there were artistic choices where you know what's going on and they didn't have to show you everything.
Well, no, yeah, it was tasteful, or I should say it was warranted by the story. It was, none of it was not excessive.
Gratuitous?
It was gratuitous. Yeah, there was nothing gratuitous in this film at all. All the violence needed to be there for the story. All of the death needed to be there to affect you as a watcher, because a lot of
every bullet hurts. Every bone breaks.
Every time... Every stab through the hand and partially into your cranium. I was like, oh, Max!
That was hard to watch.
And I love the nonchalant way he got the thing out of his hand. He just pounded it on the side of the door to get it through to the end of it, and didn't even flinch.
Yeah, I told Sean after the movie, because usually after the movie, everybody has to go use the restroom, right?
Oh, sure.
I was thinking, I couldn't use the restroom if I wanted to.
He was clenched. Oh,
I'm a little uptight.
And the other thing
that might be too much information.
Well, no, never. But the crescendo at the end, even, they've made. And
I thought
again,
the movie
this
was
is
almost over to a certain point, but no, there was another act, and I was like, phew.
Right.
Good.
But and of course, this is another big spoiler. But at the end, they make it. They pull back into the Citadel, and that music. Good grief! I've got to get this soundtrack now, because the swell at the end of this movie, and just my Max is walking, because that's what he does.
I didn't even realize there was music playing. I just felt the scene.
This wonderful beat and the music. And of course, I listen. Music's part of my head, so I'm just listening to this music crescendo, and it's just making this. It was epic on the scale of Lord of the Rings. I'm glad you brought that up. This is every bit as epic as Lord of the Rings.
And strangely, I found the characters far more likable than any in the Lord of the Rings.
Oh, I like Sam. Come on, Samwise. Mr. Frodo. You don't like me, Mr. Frodo? You make me sad, Mr. Frodo.
I like Sam. Okay?
Everybody loves Sam.
I like Sam, but
Sam was the true hero of the book.
I didn't care about anybody else in the Lord of the Rings. Sorry, I liked Gandalf, but I didn't care about it.
I didn't care about Gandalf.
Well, you didn't care about Gandalf. How could you not care about Gandalf? You shall not pass.
Yeah, just imagine if he was your driving instructor. You shall... Never mind.
No. You mean I'm not passing the course, or I shouldn't pass the truck in front of me? What are you talking about, old man? Signal. What are you saying to me, old man? What are you saying?
It sounds like we both really enjoyed this movie.
Oh, immensely.
It was far better than I anticipated.
I'm going to go see it again.
It was a different kind of movie than I anticipated, and I think that was a pleasant surprise. Mm-hmm. The story was very important, and the backdrop was fascinating, but the story is what pulled me in, and that's what usually pulls me into any movie.
Yeah.
If it's good, is the story. I can put up with low-budget special effects like the early Doctor Who episodes from the 60s.
Oh, sure.
If the story is interesting and compelling in some way.
And a good portion of them were.
So
some not so much, but yeah.
If I were to put a number out of 5, I'd have to say it's at least a 4, maybe pushing it up onto...
You could say 4.5 if you want. 4.5. 4.5 stars.
If
you could say that.
If I see it again, I might knock it up to a 5.
It's all right. I mean, as previously stated, it is a solid 5 for me. That movie was. I mean, apart from a Schindler's List or something coming out,
that's why I'm a little hesitant. I'm like, do I dare say a 5-star for Mad Max? But in terms of the quality of the production, quality of the action, how well the story was told, the practical effects, everything worked together in such a. Okay, I have one disclaimer.
All right, one disclaimer.
Where I was going with that is everything worked together so well that I can't say that it's not a 5-star. The intro to the film irked me because they speed ramped it, or they played it at like 2.5. I don't know why they did that.
That's a George Miller thing. He did that in Road Warrior all the time to make the action go faster.
Okay.
And it's obvious, and he even said himself, I know it's obvious, but he turned it into kind of a style.
So he does that.
He does that as a style thing to make things look faster.
After we got the credit, Mad Max, Fury Road.
Right.
And then it's like, okay, finally. I think that's to rev you up and get you sucked into it, but I was just like, what? Is this whole movie going to be speed ramped?
Well, with him, I like it, because Road Warrior is a lot. There's a lot of the Road Warrior that is that he sped up, mainly because he had to, because a lot of the cars in Road Warrior
didn't go that fast.
They didn't go fast at all. I mean, these things were barely chugging down the road. But in this, he had the budget to get real mechanics, buy brand new engines. And the production design in this movie, those cars were amazing. They were the most mishmash composite of stuff, but they looked mean. They looked like something. I mean, I don't want to get run over by even a friendly looking truck, but these things, I would be frightened before I died, whereas the other way, I would be pleasantly, oh, look at the nice.
When people got run over in this movie, I felt like, if that was a stunt person, that stunt person is dead.
That stunt person is dead.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, the dummies that he threw underneath the truck in the Road Warrior, they were, autonomically correct dummies. So when they got run over, it was like, oh! Even to this day, I've seen Road Warrior, several dozen times. Phone calls in the middle of our podcast, John?
No. Keep talking, Sean.
Okay, I'm keep talking. All right. George Miller, great guy. La-di-da. Go see Razorback. What?
I wanted to jump over to YouTube and just read this comment. We always implore people to leave comments.
Yeah.
And we never read any of them.
Because nobody ever leaves any.
or we do read them, but we never publish those podcasts because I'm lazy.
Right.
Anyway, so this was on our 2015 movie forecast. Ron Maynard, who you may know.
I know Ron Maynard.
Good to see you guys back. That said Sharknado, 1 star, and Fantastic Four, half a star? Wow, now I gotta see Fantastic Four just to see how it stands up to a 1-star Sharknado. Think you might have tanked on this one, Sean. Going out on a limb here.
Well, Mr. Maynard.
Hang on,
okay, I'm ready for Mr. Maynard. You bet your butt I'm ready for Mr. Maynard.
People like Kate Mara and Miles Teller, the new Fantastic Four, I think we're going to see a lot of drama shots, close-ups of shocked faces, so we feel for the characters this time around, along with the normal explosions and good CGI superpowers. If I am wrong, then I will buy you a 5-star latte of your choice.
All right.
If I am right, then I get to say, quote, Sharknado is 1 star. Really? End quote.
Well,
thank you, Ron.
Thank you, Ron. Well, let me just say this.
And now the rebuttal.
I have seen some more updates on Fantastic Four, and I will say I'm going to up it to a star because it doesn't look as bad as I thought.
Generous, a star, a full star.
But the problem is, it can be as great a movie. It can fulfill every one of Mr. Maynard's prerequisites. It's still not going to be a Fantastic Four movie because they didn't make a Fantastic Four movie. They made a movie about 4 people with powers that resemble the Fantastic Four.
I understand. We briefly talked about that in our
I know.
forecast,
So I won't. I'll just leave it there. So even if it's a great movie, Mr. Maynard is lost because it isn't a Fantastic Four movie. It does. Some of the stuff I've seen, it does look like it might be better than I had first thought. Same thing with Terminator Genesis. Some of the stuff I've seen from it, I am lowering my deal on it. I don't. It loses points with me every time I find out something new about that ghastly plot.
All right. Well, we will save.
But that's for later. That's
save
for
it
later.
For the future.
That's for later.
And you can't fight the future, Sean.
Oh no.
Dun, dun, dun,
I'm gonna try.
Dun 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 dun.
But you can. But Mad Max taught us you can kill it.
All right. Well, I think that wraps it up for our podcast on Mad Max Fury Road. Any parting thoughts? Words of wisdom?
Well,
I got nothing.
I got nothing. I say go. I think I said this at the beginning of the podcast, but in case I didn't, I'm going to say it now. That's how we did it in the '80s, boys.
Girls.
Boys and girls. That is the essence of the action movies that I remember. I came out of a movie feeling like I saw a movie again.
And we didn't even touch on the strong presence of female leads.
No, very powerful female
podcast
leads.
About that in the future.
Yeah, female, absolutely. We will, because strong female characters are, I think, somewhat
you like strong
lost.
women?
I think I do. I think strong female characters are a little scarce for my taste.
All right. Well, before we dig ourselves into a hole.
Yes, well, that's another deal. We'll talk about it later.
Next time, I'm Jonathan Solzbach.
And I am Sean Hastings.
Adios.
Color us gone.
And now, the credits. Intro music by Henry Kadib. Outro music by Matt Steiner. Show concept and creation by Sean Hastings and Jonathan Solzbach. Find us on iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube, and of course, cinemafilibuster.com. Leave a comment at any of those venues and we'll read it in a future episode. Thanks for listening.